Welcome back to BadgerBlitz TV, your Rivals.com destination for all things Wisconsin athletics. Once again, I'm Matt Perkins, joined, as always, by my good friend, Rivals.com national analyst Clint Cosgrove. Like we always say, bud, best time of the week.
Best time of the week. Let's go. Let's talk ball. Let's talk everything. Football, Wisconsin, evals. I mean, there's so much to talk about. Let's go.
There's a ton to talk about right now, Clint. On the trail, off the trail. Is there even a trail? Who knows? It's spring ball time. And one of the things that we're seeing a lot more of with the Wisconsin Badgers is guys coming in for visits during spring practices. It seems like more and more guys are coming under the Fickle administration into these spring balls. They're much more open about it. They are, the social medias are much more a buzz about it. These obviously aren't official visits, and there seem to be a lot of kids coming through on these. Like, it seems like 6, 8, 10, a dozen kids coming in on some of these spring practice visits. Walk us through what one of those visits looks like from the perspective of a recruit who is being invited to one of these.
Yeah, so a lot of these off-season visits, especially ones that aren't official, visits that aren't for games, and especially with the new official visit calendar, they're getting up there and they're not really seeing these coaches unless it's like mat drills and stuff like that. So this is a great opportunity for them to see, what would it be like to go and practice here? What would it be like to play for this coach? And I think it says a lot about the school and what it would be like if they did choose Wisconsin as their destination. They know what they're getting into. And so it gives you that perspective that you don't get on some of these visits, especially official visits, unless it's a game day experience. So you're getting an up close and look at what the day-to-day life is like, especially during spring ball, which can be a grind, as any college football player will tell you. And coaches get after you in spring ball. So I feel like players nowadays, with their sights set high on the NFL, they want coaches who are going to coach them up. And then they can also see the way the players respond to these coaches. Do they get upset when they get their butt ripped? Or do they have so much respect and so much love and know that the coach cares for them that they enjoy getting their butt ripped? They enjoy getting coached hard. So I think that's a huge part of these spring visits. You get a chance to see what it's really like to be a player. And then you can connect with the players afterwards. So that's another big thing as well. And then, they're fitting in the photo shoots. They're doing all the things that they would do on the unofficial visits. But I think the biggest thing that goes for these is more than just facilities. It's more than just the tours. It's more than just the academic, conversations. It's a chance to see, what would it be like if I actually played here? What would it be like as I got ready for practice in the locker room, as I got up to the field, and what do I expect on the day-to-day basis as a player here? And it just gives you a glimpse into a program that you wouldn't otherwise get from a kind of a manufactured speech or a manufactured visit, with other players. They get to watch their actual position coach guys. They get to watch the actual format. They get to watch how guys get after it. I was talking to Justin Scott the other day, and he went back to Notre Dame for a practice, and he's like, a couple fights broke out, and he's like, I loved it. I just, the competitiveness. And I think it really shows, how players are getting after it, how they respond to the coaching. And I know I keep saying that, but it is just a preview that you don't always get if you're just going up there on an unofficial or a game day visit. Now, game day visits, all obviously awesome. Official visits, obviously awesome. This is just a different glimpse into the program that you wouldn't get otherwise. For some guys, they might say, wow, this might be a little too much for me. Maybe this isn't where I want to be. For a lot of guys, they're going to be like, these guys can coach. They have a plan, and the kids respond. And I think it can go a long way towards, getting guys to seriously consider your program. And it's kind of a preview to get you back up there. And in some cases, maybe commit.
And it's also another level of transparency, whether you're a recruit or a parent. You can walk in and say, hey, this is how these coaches are going to talk to my son every single day. I see, if I'm a defensive line recruit, I can see what Coach Scruggs is out there, what he's yelling, what he's doing to motivate the kids. And I can tell if he is being, the kind of man that he is being, because that is, you're not going to mess with practice. Coaches only get so many hours of practice in the spring on the field. They're not wasting a quarter of a second of that. So they are just, that is who they are. That is who you're going to see them at their most raw self, because that is the most intense part of the job. And so you get a glimpse into a lot more of the nitty gritty, it seems, than you would, like, you talk like a produced visit, like an official visit. You talk about, they've got the you've got the hotel like laid out for you when you come in. You've got whatever your giant cookie that Bernie and everyone has talked about when you get there. And this is something that feels much more real, which is great in a lot of ways. But like you said, it could be a turnoff to some people, but that's probably better to get it out of the way now than string them along and not sort of figure out. And it also, you're right, I think it just does a lot for the transparency. I think it's been really interesting to see. And also for me, like, the first episode of The Camp just came out yesterday as we record this here on Wednesday, the 5th of April. And one of the most notable things for me was just seeing how many people were at practice, like how many non-football are just lined up, recruits, their parents and guidance counselors, and all these people are there. Like, that's what I'm talking about when I see the transparency. I mean, like, you can't hide anything. You can't hide anything in that. And I think that's actually really, really cool. And maybe I'm just drinking the Kool-Aid a little bit. That's for you guys in the Badgers Den to decide. Now, we're going to talk about some of these kids who have been coming on the visits. The first one, though, is someone who hasn't come on a visit, but maybe in the future, he is a Midwest wide receiver that I'm not sure, having now watched the film on him, how he has not blown up already. Because, Clint, let's just say that Dae'Vonn Hall has all of the qualities that you would look for in a modern wide receiver.
Yeah, no question. I mean, he's a 4-star for a reason. And, I looked at his recruitment, and you kind of wonder, he's sitting at that 10 offer range, and usually guys with his size and combination of speed, I can't remember what his high jump is, but he's like a 6'10" high jumper at, 6'2", 6'3", 185, 190 pounds. He's got great straight line speed. You go and see him. I was at a 7-on-7 that he was at recently. Great body control, finds a way to get open. He has a chance to be a dominant presence on the football field. It was great to see him go against some top tier talent as well. Not that Nebraska football isn't good. It's just across the board, you're not going against elite defensive backs every single week. Well, he comes up to one of these tournaments and he's going against big time guys. And then you see how big he is in person. Like, he has a commanding presence to him, and he's a great kid. Talking to him afterwards, talking about what he cares about. He is bigger than he looks on film right here. His way he gets off the ball, his release, his ability to stretch the field. He's got great ball skills, but also great body control. He can track the ball. He has great spatial awareness. There was just so much to like about him. And at the end, when I was talking to him, and after seeing him perform and just seeing where his recruitment is going, I don't think he's gone really hard with his recruitment to this point. I think once he gets on more campuses, more coaches get a chance to see him, especially if he decides, to go to summer camps and coaches get to see him there. He's a kid that is going to completely blow up. I think he's a legitimate 4-star. He can do a little bit of everything, and I think his best football is in front of him, because at his size, to move the way he does, his leaping ability, just everything about him. And, just honestly, looking at this, he looks so much smaller on this film than he does in person, because he is a commanding presence. And there's literally nothing that he couldn't do. I was questioning going in at his size, how well would he run? But, all of that was put to bed. This kid is at least, a high-end regional recruit, if not a national recruit. Now, receivers are a dime a dozen sometimes, people say, but he is different. I think he's better than advertised, and I think his recruitment will continue to blow up. As Wisconsin looks for more receivers, I think he's a guy that would be in the wheelhouse, and he's a big body and he can play.
Yeah, absolutely. And Clint, you say he's bigger in person than he looks on film. I thought he looks pretty darn big on film. I mean, and especially you see the long strides. He really strides it out, and you can see he definitely hits another gear too. It's really impressive. The body control for a guy that big, especially even with the ball in his hands, he moves very well. definitely someone to keep an eye on. Another prospect, definitely to keep an eye on, who seems to be a priority target now for the Badgers, is defensive tackle Dillan Johnson. I should say defensive tackle slash wrestler, because that is actually what he's most known for in his life coming up.
Yep.
Even up until the last couple months, he is a champion wrestler, but the Badgers staff really seems to have honed in on him at the defensive tackle position. And Clint, we're going to turn the film on here for Dillan in just a minute, which I was surprised that we hadn't done before, but we hadn't, so gives us an excuse to take another look, which is what we love to do here. First thing that jumps out to me about Dillan is his like short space strength and violence and balance and quickness. You see the wrestling background, violent hands, and I think that he has a tremendous amount of upside. I don't know how big he's going to get. See, to me, he looks like he's about 270. I don't know how much he can fill out. I don't know how much more his frame is really going to be able to take without being overloaded. That being said, you know, he has certain traits that you can't teach no matter what kind of frame that you have. So Clint, talk to us a little bit more about Dillan and where, you know, his recruitment is going. He is in your neck of the woods in Chicagoland, and, you know, what do you like about him?
Yeah, so he's a guy that has definitely grown on me the more that I watch him. And I know a big thing, especially with Coach Vic, and that is they love tough guys, they love wrestlers, and he's a tough guy and he's a wrestler. Like I said, the more I watch, the more I like. You know, he is a little sawed off. He doesn't have those long arms, you know, where he's just gonna, you know, push a offensive lineman off of him. He's nasty. He's gonna fight through, and so. He makes up for his lack of length with extreme violence, his ability to get skinny. Like you'll see on some of these clips where he can flip his hips sideways and then make it through. And he's a high motor kid. Now, you know, one of the things that I questioned about him when I first started watching him is how's his first step? How's his BGO, his ball get off? I think it's better than what you see on film, because what he does is he kind of, and this might be the wrestler in him, he kind of waits to see how the offensive line is going to react. And then once he sees that, he explodes off the ball. So I think his twitch and ability to come off the ball is better than you would expect just from watching the film. He's extremely disruptive. I mean, he's going to be a run defender, but he also has that interior pass rush ability. And when you're playing the 3 down front, these are the type of players that you need. Can he take on double teams? Yes, I think he can. He's very strong. We talk about how big will he get? I don't know a ton about wrestling. I don't know if he has to keep his weight down to be in a certain class, or if he's already a heavyweight, or what it is. So that's me speaking out of knowing very little about wrestling. But I will say this about, you know, maybe his upside size wise. His brother, who played at Plainfield South, ended up playing at Missouri State, played there for, I think he ended up 6 years, took the redshirt year, took the COVID year, ended up being a 5th round draft pick by the Colts. And he's 6'4", 298, and he ran 4.87 in the 40 in draft prep. So if he could get to that size, and not saying he will, you know, brothers aren't just guaranteed to be the same size and everything like that, but to have a family member in the NFL who is maybe a little under recruited coming out, ending up at Missouri State, even redshirting at Missouri State, and then to see that development and growth over the years that he had, I wouldn't be surprised to see a guy like Dillan, you know, have that happen to him. The things that you love, he's tough. He can get skinny. He's got a little bit of interior pass rush. I would say actually a lot of interior pass rush ability, just because he can get skinny and he's got a high motor and he chases the ball. And, the one thing you're looking for in the 3-3-5 is not only guys who can take up blockers and free them up for second level defenders, but guys that, are going to disrupt the line of scrimmage, that are going to knock the line of scrimmage back. And I think he can be that guy. He's a young kid. We always forget that. But he has a lot of upside. The more I watch him, the more I like him. And I do think he has a chance to be pretty good.
Well, one of the other kids that got a write up from John recently, coming off of these spring visits, that I think has a chance to be really good is Leontre Bradford, who is a DB who I can see him playing sort of all over the map. But I think that sort of nickel safety hybrid, lining up all over the field position, seems like the right spot for him, because the thing that jumps off the screen when you watch him to me is football IQ. Is he knows where the play is going before the quarterback does half the time. And again, we talk about things that you can't teach. You can't teach that. It's just from being around the game for so long and understanding, tendencies. And he's clearly got that to me. And I think he's got the athleticism to back it up to be an impact guy. But I mean, you're the DB guy. Tell me what you think.
Okay, so I've been watching Leontre maybe since he was in 8th grade, because he always comes up to Edgy Tim's camps. He's always been a heck of a player, and he continues to grow. He's probably 6'1", 190, maybe even bigger. Last time I saw him, I don't know if I saw him at a camp recently. I know I saw him at the first game of the year, and that's on his film, and he is all over the place. The kid runs, he hits, he's got the size, he's a great athlete, he tracks the ball well. You love him as a run defender. But he's equally good in pass defense, which you don't necessarily see on the film because he lines up all over the place. You'll see him here, and he's coming off the edge as an extra rusher. And the way that he comes with bad intentions and getting after the passer, you just love to see. Now, when you talk about the 3-3-5, and we discussed this early on when they were making that transition, is these safeties, they have to come down and be run defenders. They have to defend the run. And he's the type of player, like you said, he diagnoses, he runs, he hits, and he's making plays from depth, but he's making plays when he lines up kind of just outside the box. And he has the athleticism that he can get down there, but also recover and play in a deep zone or in quarters or whatever you're going to play. He just has a little bit of everything. I think he's going to be a kid in the 4-star conversation. He gets better every time you see him. But he's exactly what you're looking for in that 3-3-5 as a safety, because that's what he excels at. He excels at identifying run and getting down there and being that extra defender, because like you say, when you're doing the 3-3-5, you don't got 7 guys in the box necessarily. He's a guy who can be a box defender. He can recover and play coverage. And like I said, you don't see his coverage ability necessarily on the film, but the kid can cover. He can run. He's athletic, extremely instinctual, and there's just so much to love about him. I've liked Leontre for a long time. The more I watch him, the more I like him. The more I see him, the more I like him. And you know what? He's a tough kid. He is a tough kid who he comes with bad intentions. He plays hard. This game right here, that last clip is from against St. Francis in Baltimore. So that's some of the best competition in the U.S. East St. Louis is playing a high-end schedule. So these are big-time players that he is playing against, and he's getting coached well. So he's going to come in as a guy who would be able to contribute early on, if nothing else, on special teams. But his skill set is so dynamic and so perfect for the 3-3-5 that I just think that he would be a no-brainer for Wisconsin, and I think they'll be in the mix with him.
Yeah, and I just, even in that last clip that I think just popped up there, he gets beat, he recovers, and from behind forces a fumble because he sees the ball carrier carrying it, like a loaf of bread, just pops it out and recovers it while he's laying on the ground. Again, just those little things that's going to make a huge impact on a game, and you love to see it. Also, if you are a Wisconsin fan, you love them going down to St. Louis and saying, don't forget about us. They're hitting St. Louis hard. And, Clint, you and I have been banging the drum for St. Louis for a minute here. And
a year.
It's good to see.
A full year.
Yeah, a year. A full year. That Wisconsin has untapped potential in St. Louis, and don't just let it go to, Illinois or Missouri or, Oklahoma or whatever. It's not that much further to Madison. It's closer than a lot of those schools in Texas and stuff like that. So, and there's so much talent and so much potential there. So it's good to see that. One last prospect, though, we're going to talk about here. We're going to move to 2025. We're going to talk about Dominik Hulak. I think when you first look at him, you think another Midwest Mike. Like, we've seen this before, Clint. We've seen this before. I don't think we've quite seen this before, though. I think he's a little bit more than just an old school Midwest Mike. I think he's a much more dynamic player, especially in coverage. But Clint, I know he's been on your radar here for a minute. What do you like about the 2025 projected linebacker who also could be a tight end? Jumbo slot. I mean, he's got a lot of upside.
He has a ton of upside. So first thing that sticks out is great size. The first clip on his film, it looks like he's kind of all over the place, but he's just like, he's just so ready to go and find and hit somebody. He's another guy who does a very good job of diagnosing plays. So great size. He's twitched up for a young kid with his frame and his size and his build. He can run. He has great straight line speed. He diagnoses plays quickly. He can make up for a bad read with his athleticism and motor. I just think he's got a chance to be big time. The thing that a lot of people don't realize over at IC is Matt Bowen, who's an ESPN commentator, who was a great player in the NFL and played at Iowa, is their secondary coach. He brings a lot to the table over there. Those kids are coached up. He's at the same high school as the Purdue tight end commit, Eric Carner. I think it's Carner, yeah, who actually is committed to Purdue, but just picked up an Alabama offer. So there's players on this field, but I just really like him. He's not a Midwest Mike because he can run, he can change direction. And even if he makes a bad read, which he doesn't do often, but if he does, he can recover because he does have that straight line speed and he comes downhill. He is a downhill defender. Again, in the 3-3-5, you need guys who can run and hit. He's a guy who's going to be able to do that. Like I said, he could grow into a defensive end. He can play tight end. He is an athlete at the linebacker position, far from a Midwest Mike. He might have the Midwest Mike size. He might be from the Midwest, but I think he runs and moves a little bit better than that. And he is today's, the Mike position has changed so much over the years because you wanted a big 6'4", 230-pound guy who could control the middle. It's turned into a position where it's a sideline to sideline guy. You've got 5'10", 5'11" guys in the NFL who are just making plays. I think of Darius Leonard at the Colts. So the position has changed a little bit. He has the frame of, like I said, almost like a defensive end, outside linebacker, but he can play in the middle, and that's what you like about him. The position versatility, the athleticism. Keep in mind, again, this is a 2025. This is a sophomore in high school, and he's getting coached up. He's going to work his butt off. I know all the kids in that program, and they're also very intelligent kids in that program. So I'm sure he's a good culture fit. He's a smart kid. And, strong, tough, and dependable. That's what you're looking for at the position. And he brings that to the table. And he still has 2 years of high school football in front of him. So a ton of upside here. I think we have him as a 5'7" right now. He'll definitely be in that 4-star conversation and, chance to be a very good player.
When you talk about tough, strong, and dependable, that's Clint Cosgrove right there at @rivals_Clint. He is all of those things and more. Clint, it's always great to see you, bud. We'll be back with more next week. And until then, we will see you guys in the den.
In the den.